Compulsive Gamer, the O.C.G, and I'm here playing, you guessed it, Tomb Raider. Gonna try and beat all the games in preparation for the second chapter coming out. Let me make sure I'm alive. I don't know why you keep depriving yourself of sleep.
Welcome to my home. I'll take you on a guided tour.
See, this is the Tomb Raider, original Tomb Raider, but it's the remastered version, and you can swap between the old graphics and the new graphics at any time. It's actually a pretty big difference, honestly.
Okay, let's do some tumbling. Press the jump button. Ah, the main hall. Sorry about the crates. I'm having some things put into storage and the delivery people haven't been yet.
I love Tomb Raider, I really do. Pretty much lived Tomb Raider my whole life, although I didn't really get into play the classic ones that much as a kid. I mostly started with Tomb Raider Legend, but I still do love the series. Ooh. I know, one of the things that's really good about this collection is how they modernized the gameplay. The original game had tank controls, which I actually don't really approve of. I've actually gone on a whole spiel about how the classic Resident Evil games needed tank controls because they had fixed camera angles that rapidly shifted. And so, it's pre-rendered art. So, because that was more detailed than what they could accomplish in PS1 at the time. So it was basically the camera had to be at a certain angle. Otherwise, you'd see behind the illusion. And the camera angles would rapidly shift. And because of that, left would become right, right would become up. You know what I'm saying? So it would be confusing. So by making up always forward, you never had to wonder on each screen, well, what button do I press to go forward? So it's clunky, but it worked for the type of game that Resident Evil was. It wasn't just done for no reason. But, oh shit. In Tomb Raider, it was always 3D, polygonal environments, as you can see, with the rotatable camera, or movable camera. So, Tomb Raider doesn't really have the excuse that Resident Evil did, where it needed the tank controls. So, you know, you can play with the original controls if you're a purist or you just want to play what you're used to. But they have a modern control scheme that just gives you modern controls, and I think that's fantastic because one, I think it works a lot better with a game like this, and for two, there's a lot of people that I know and I've seen that refuse to play the original Tomb Raider game simply because they had tank controls. So this opens it up to a much wider audience of people who can now properly enjoy it, which is good because Tomb Raider is great.
This used to be the ballroom, but I've converted it into my own personal gym. What do you think? Well, let's do some I don't actually run everywhere. When I want to be careful, I walk. Hold down the walk button and walk to the right. With the walk button down, I won't fall off even if you try to make me. Go on, try it.
Yeah, the walk button actually is a good part. There's parts of the game where there's traps that will spawn, and walking will help you. Plus, like she said, you will not fall off of an edge while you're holding the walk button, so it helps you navigate tricky shit. So most games, the walk button is like, not really useful. In Tomb Raider, it's actually useful.
If I do a running jump, I can make a jump like that, no problem. Right, this is a really big one. So do a running jump exactly as before, except while I'm in the air, press and hold the action button to make me grab the ledge. Nice.
Nice. And this is actually one of those games where the tutorial is really useful, especially because Tomb Raider had a kind of complicated control scheme back in the day, so it's really helped.
Let's go for a swim. Right, now I'd better take off these wet clothes.
Giggity! Although in the actual game, she didn't mean that in any way, you know, like sexual. She literally meant it. Los Alamos, New Mexico. Yeah, this is Natla. Natla is pretty much the most iconic, most noteworthy villain in the entire series. And I think she's going to be in the next Tomb Raider game as well, which I'll explain here in a bit. Imperial Hotel Calcutta, present day. Obviously, they weren't able to update classic cutscenes.
It's hard to say exactly, but you seem to be doing fine.
Well, great. Though truth is, it ain't me that wants you.
Oh?
No, Miss Jacqueline Natla does. From Natla Technologies. You know, creator of all things bright and beautiful.
Seal it, Larry. Larson.
Ma'am.
Feast your eyes on this, Lara. How does that make your wallet rumble?
I'm sorry. I only play for sport.
Then you'll like a big park. Peru.
Got an enemy
Vast
gaming
mountain
uranium.
ranges to cover. Sheer walls of ice. Rocky crags. Savage winds. And there's this little trinket. An ancient artifact of mystical power is buried in the unfound tomb of Kuala. That's my interest. You could leave tomorrow. Are you busy tomorrow?
It's also kind of funny and kind of awesome how all these different things have piggybacked off each other, which I'll explain. Yeah, unfortunately, he dies. He gets attacked by wolves. Doesn't even get a single line. In all fairness, Laura couldn't help that. She tried. Plus, he's an Arctic tour guide. You kind of, it's dangerous. Some jobs, they're fucking dangerous. But anyway, okay, so Indiana Jones was heavily inspired by serials from the 30s. And then Tomb Raider was heavily inspired by Indiana Jones and made no qualms about that. But it's not derivative of Indiana Jones. That's what people don't understand. You can be inspired by it without being derivative. And then they did an Indiana Jones game on Xbox that was inspired by Tomb Raider, so it was a circle. But then Uncharted, which I'm sure you know of Uncharted. I don't know if you ever played the Uncharted games. But I'm sure you know of them, was heavily inspired by Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones. In fact, when they first showed off Uncharted, they hadn't given it a name yet. So people jokingly called it Dude Raider. Like, it was so clearly inspired by Tomb Raider that before it had a name, people called it Dude Raider. Of course, the difference is that these games all these things were inspired by, they were not derivative. Tomb Raider obviously was inspired by Indiana Jones, but didn't rip it off. Uncharted was inspired by Tomb Raider, but didn't rip it off and did its own thing. There's a way to take inspiration while still being unique. And there's a line between, being inspired by something and being a derivative of something. And furthermore, when they did the modern Tomb Raider games, they took inspiration from Uncharted, meaning the circle just kept going. And that also helps everybody move forward. Games and all that stuff moves forward over time through shit like that. And see, like, they kept the original level design, because because obviously they have to. The game is built around it. But they added all kinds of stuff, and they mainly added tons and tons and tons of new light sources. Like here, there's no light. In the remaster, light comes through, and everything is changed to accommodate for that. And they've done that frequently. I mean, you're not going to mistake this for a modern game, but this was done on a smaller budget, so... Thank you for watching, I really appreciate you. And if you like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be amazing. See, in the original game, there was no light here. Then they added 3D shrubbery. The goal was to remaster these games while keeping the original flavor, the original level designs, the original thing, to allow new people to get into them, but to still maintain the original game without compromising it. Which they did, I think. Some people might be disappointed by this if they expect this to look like a modern game, but like I said, this was made by a smaller team on a smaller budget, but they were people who clearly cared. In fact, most of the people who worked on this remaster were fans of the original Tomb Raider games, who worked in the community. So, these people cared a lot. This is truly a work of love. And that makes up for a lot. Plus, well, it's not exactly, nobody's gonna nobody's gonna confuse the remaster, the graphics for a modern game. It still looks 1,000 times better than the original game. You can clearly see. And it is pretty fucking nifty to be able to swap between the old graphics and new graphics instantly with the tap of a button. And requires special engine considerations because they're essentially running 2 lines of code at the same time. It's not as easy as, it can be pretty complicated actually to get that to happen. See, there's no light coming through. It's just a closed ceiling, and they add a light and it upgrades it. Especially because in Tomb Raider, you're mostly in, like jungles and deserts and abandoned places that don't have a lot of electric lighting, so natural lighting is kind of the lighting that you're going to have. Get a health pack, that'll be useful. And there are certain things. There are certain things about Tomb Raider that haven't aged well. That's fair. But the thing that Tomb Raider did the best, that has stayed very much true, was the atmosphere. At the time, Tomb Raider was a master class of atmosphere. It was about exploring a dangerous dark ruin. And that is 1,000,000% stood the test of time. And as somebody who loves video games for the escapism, for that feeling of exploring a world, another world, for doing something I could never do in real life, it strokes a primal itch. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to dive into 800-year-old fucking ruins. Exploring the lost shit of Atlantis. So all that stuff is super cool. And ultimately, I'm playing through these again because the February of next year, the second remaster collection comes out. Which is, this is Tomb Raider 1 through 3, second collection is Tomb Raider 4 through 6. And obviously I want to get these finished before, doing more. No, fuck. Son of a bitch, I loaded the save instead of fucking... saving. Ugh, whatever. I didn't lose that much progress. I've just got to be careful about that. Oh well. Shit happens. Now I'll just make sure to stay on the ledge so I can avoid the wolves down here. You don't have to. And back to what I was saying earlier. Okay, so they actually did do a remake of Tomb Raider. Not a remaster, like a remake. But it was a reimagining. It was called Tomb Raider Anniversary. It's actually really good. But it's not the same game. The story was rewritten. All of the voice lines were reacted. Yeah, that is true. All of the voice lines were reacted. The level designs were altered. It's like they took the same idea of Tomb Raider 1, and then they rewrote it, redesigned the levels, added new stuff, took stuff out that people didn't like. That's where it's not a remake, it's a reimagining, if you ask me, because a remake is the same thing. Hold on, give me 1 second. I've went on and on about this endlessly. People get remaster, remake, and reimagining confused. There's remasters, remakes, and reimaginings. And the best way that I have found to explain the difference is a remaster is going into an old house, right? And sprucing the place up some. Adding a new coat of paint here and there. You know, fixing broken appliances. You know, taking the framework and adding some spit polish, some love, some TLC. Remaking a game is taking and rebuilding the house from the ground up with all new parts, but in the same shape. So it has the same layout, has the same floor, but new parts. And that can apply to graphics and gameplay. And a reimagining is rebuilding the house, but into a different shape, only keeping, there we go, some of the core similarities. So, there are parts of it that are the same, but the house is in a different shape now, and new parts. Tomb Raider Anniversary is a reimagining. This is a remaster because it keeps the levels the same. It spruces up the graphics, has quality of life features, has good stuff, but it keeps the levels the same, keeps the story the same, keeps the voice acting the same. Tomb Raider Anniversary had a new actors for all the characters, had a rewritten script that had different scenes, different characters, different outcomes for the characters, and it had similar themes to the levels, but the levels themselves were redesigned. So, you might think that Tomb Raider Remastered would make Tomb Raider Anniversary redundant, but it doesn't, because they're two different approaches to the same thing. And they're both good in their own way. In my opinion. And what's cool, and what we're coming down to, right, is you basically have 3 timelines. That's the end of the first level, which is cool. You have 3 timelines in Tomb Raider, okay? And once again, I'm trying to break this down for you. Not that you, it's not, word vomit. When I say I'm trying to break it down for you, I want to make something clear. That is not, and this is not just to you, this is to anybody. I am not trying to belittle somebody's intelligence. Sometimes people may get the vibe when I say let me break it down for you so you can understand it, that I'm trying to say, well, you're not smart enough to understand it. It's not that I understand it, because the truth is, if I thought somebody wasn't smart enough to understand what I had to say, I wouldn't fucking say it. I'm not going to waste my time on you. If that makes sense. See, there was no light here. It's just great. It's that it's something that's complicated and something that needs to be broken down into more easily digestible chunks, because I am frankly autistic. Like, that's not a joke. I'm literally autistic. I have Asperger's, but it's just easier to say autism. And people now have stopped using the term Asperger's, so, you know, and it is what it is. But regardless, and I have a head for knowledge. I have spent many, many, many hours of my life researching the things that I am talking about, playing them, getting immersed in them. Okay? So, when I was younger, I mistakenly assumed that everybody had the same level of love and affection for the things I was talking about that I did. So I would talk about something from the perspective of somebody that has spent a lot of time researching it to somebody that had not, and they would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So my goal, when I say let me break it down for you, is trying to explain it in a way that somebody who's not savvy with what I'm talking about can understand it. Not to denigrate their intelligence, because some people think when you say, let me break it down for you, I'm saying, well, you wouldn't get it. It's honestly, you wouldn't get it, but it's not because you're dumb, it's because you don't have the understanding of this that I do. You know? Like, it's like a teacher. They have to teach people who come into their class about a subject. They know it. A good teacher can break it down in ways that they can understand it when they don't have a fucking degree in it. But that teacher's not denigrating their intelligence. The whole point is for them to learn. And if anything, I hope to have that same effect. Obviously, I'm not a teacher. But my goal is to extend a hand to people for them to come into something that I love and for them to like it, because I love these games. I love the games that I'm playing. I love the games that I'm talking about, especially Tomb Raider. I have a very long relationship with Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider came out the year I was born, 96. Okay, so Tomb Raider has essentially been around my entire life, and I've liked Tomb Raider my entire life. My dad played Tomb Raider growing up. I have very good memories of him playing Tomb Raider. I have played Tomb Raider growing up. I have very good memories of my life playing different Tomb Raider games that came out, as I was there for them, as this franchise has taken many different shapes and forms. I want my knowledge and my expertise to be something that opens the door for people to come into this. You know? I like to share my games with people, games that I like with people, which is why I like streaming, and I want people to like them and get into them and understand them. So, my biggest hope is that people will see my streams, they'll hear my conversation, and it will open the door for them to play this game as well. And then they'll love it, and they'll want to play it. And then I will have shared something with somebody. And I have accomplished that. Maybe not for everybody, but I know several people that I have gotten into game series just by watching my streams, which is my biggest accomplishment and the thing that I'm most happy about. So, you know, certain games that I love, certain things that I love, are not easy to get into. And by breaking it down and making it easier for somebody to understand, I'm making it easier to get into that thing. We're removing a barrier for them so they can get into it and they can enjoy it more, which is the goal. See, there's no ceiling here. Like, they wanted to add more natural lighting to the areas, and they did that in a way that fit the architecture of the original level, which I think is fantastic. All the places that they added lights made sense. Like, there was always this divot in the ceiling, there's just nothing there. Now there's fucking fauna hanging down and lighting in it, you know? enhances the environment while keeping the layout of the level the same. That is not an easy thing to do. Furthermore, I want people to understand games on a deeper level. When I love a game, and I get into it, I learn who made it, I learn the history behind it, I learn about the engine. Like, I literally will approach a game and learn everything about it that I fucking can. And, shit, yeah. Oh, no. Especially if I really like the game. Shit, I was running out of air. If I really like the game, I will learn about the names of the team members who worked on the game and follow their work. It is a hidden area, a shortcut, as well as to get breath. So yeah, but back to what I was trying to say, okay? Tomb Raider has 3 timelines, with a 4th on the way, basically. Oh, hey, sweet. You have the first Tomb Raider timeline, which people call the core timeline because core games were the ones that made the first Tomb Raider games, so, you know, core timeline. 6 games, essentially. Tomb Raider 1 through 6. And then, because the reception to the game, Angel of Darkness, wasn't as what they'd hoped, they decided to reboot the series. And that was when we get the Legends timeline, which is Tomb Raider Legend, Tomb Raider Anniversary, and Tomb Raider Underworld. And then, unfortunately, they decided to reboot it again. And that's where we get the most recent Tomb Raider timeline, the Legend. Not Legend, I'm sorry, fuck. The Survivor timeline. Those games are designed to be Laura's origin story, because obviously, you know, even in Tomb Raider 1, Laura's already well established, well into her career, has already went on a bunch of treasure hunts. Tomb Raider 2013, and I have to say that because the name of it is just Tomb Raider, which don't even get me fucking started on that. I fucking hate it when games do that, and they'll make a new game and they'll call it the name of the old game, because that just makes it so much more confusing. Talking about it, so now when you say Tomb Raider, do you mean Tomb Raider 1996, or do you mean Tomb Raider 2013? And then other games get even more complicated. You know, just... Oh, shit, a bear. Famous last words. Oh, shit, a bear! Those games are meant to... those games are meant to tell Laura's origin story and show how she became a survivor, hence why people call it the Survivor Trilogy, because they put a really big emphasis on survival and her having to learn to survive. She, at the start of Tomb Raider 2013, she has no fucking experience in the wild. She has some base hunting level experience, but no real in the wilderness make or break, you know, experience with this. And that timeline has 3 games: Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which thankfully after the first game, they're like, we're not going to call the game the same name again. Like, they Rise, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, they convincingly or cleverly worked the name into something else. That way there wouldn't be more confusion, because then it'd be Tomb Raider 2, 2. you know what I'm saying? So. Thankfully, they did not fucking do that. And now, it is not out yet, and God knows when it will be out. But, there is another major Tomb Raider game on the way. We don't even know the name of that one. But, oh, there's the key that I need from the entrance hall, which is cool. And actually, yeah, hold on, there's actually some shit I can get here if I come back and push the block the other way. Tomb Raider was owned, and once again I'm going on a fucking tangent, Tomb Raider was owned by Core Dynamics. Or I'm sorry, Core Studios, fuck. And then it changed hands to Crystal Dynamics, because they were both owned by Eidos. And they wanted to give the game series to new leadership because they were tired of what was going on. They needed to change, basically. And then Crystal Dynamics was purchased by Square Enix. And for a long time, that was who owned Tomb Raider, was Square Enix. They owned them through, you know, much of the Legend games and the Survivor trilogy. But then they decided, Square Enix, in a fucking move that's incredibly fucking stupid, mind you, that I fucking hate, decided to sell off many of their Western game properties. Square Enix owned Just Cause, Tomb Raider, Hitman, which I don't know if you played those games, but I'm sure you've heard of them, Deus Ex, and they decided to sell off most of them, and they went to different places. I don't know why they would sell them, because they thought they apparently weren't worth much, which really pisses me off, because it's fucking Tomb Raider, but whatever. Tomb Raider is like one of the most famous series to ever live. If you can't make a profit off of Tomb Raider, that's a you problem. That's not a brand problem. Okay? Even to this day, Lara Croft is fucking synonymous with gaming. She's iconic in a way that few game series will ever be. You know? You can't buy that type of brand recognition. You can't create it, you know, at will. It just happens. To this day, the amount of people that love Lara Croft is ridiculous. So Square Enix thinking, well, we can't make a profit off of Tomb Raider. No, dog, you're telling me you can't make a profit off of Tomb Raider. I'm guarantee you other people can. That's a skill issue, dog. So they sold it, and it went to Amazon. Amazon now is a game studio, but they kept the team, and they're making a new Tomb Raider game. They've worked on it for several years now. We'll probably hear about it, I would say probably next year. It might even release next year, because they sold the studio in 2020, and they started working on a new game like right away. So whatever Tomb Raider game they've already got, it's already been in development for like 4 years, going on 5 years. So it's not, they just started working on it. They've been working on it for some time, and I'm pretty sure they're avoiding showing it because they want to make sure it's ready. They don't want to have to delay it when it's ready. So I'm pretty sure they're probably going to announce it next year and then release it next year. That's my theory, or in early next year. Either way, it's not that far out, relatively speaking. They might go for 2026 for the 30th anniversary of Tomb Raider, but I don't think so. I really do think they've already been working on it. By the time 2025 rolls around for 5 years, I think they're probably already shipping, you know, pretty much in the final stages of polishing right now. They just don't want to show it till they're 100% sure it's going to come out. So, you know, they delay a game, it's going to look bad. And the last Tomb Raider game came out in 2018, so it's been a while. It's been, you know, 6 years, and it will be 7. So they want to make sure when they announce it that it's done, out, you know what I mean? Especially because this will be the first Tomb Raider game in this new timeline, and this will be the first Tomb Raider game made under this regime. So it's important to say, hey, we can still make good Tomb Raider games. Because technically, as I was just saying, this is made by the same team that did the last 3, which were good. But most people don't know that. They say, oh, it's Amazon now. And at the same time, Amazon is also just now making their games division. And they did this fucking game called Eternum, New World Eternum. It's like an MMO. I haven't really played it because I'm not into MMOs, online games. But they haven't made a big single-player game. So this new Tomb Raider game is pretty much going to be the first single-player Amazon game. So they also have to prove that they can make good games. So it's not just a litmus test for the studio, it's also for the publisher. So they want to make sure that whatever game they deliver is fucking good, because if your first game that you've been prepping all this time sucks, you're not going to instill confidence in the brand. So, I think that's why they haven't given a name, haven't showed off the gameplay, because they're waiting until it's fucking done. 100% also because, the last Tomb Raider game was made for PS4 and Xbox One, and this Tomb Raider game will be made for PS5 and Series X, and so they had to re-suite their technology. It's a new generation. So, also that, they had to overhaul their technology, basically. Fuck me. But this Tomb Raider game is called the Unified Timeline because they're going to be taking elements from all of the Tomb Raider timelines and trying to incorporate them into one larger story. I don't know how they're going to do that because several of the Tomb Raider timelines are kind of contradictory, but I guess we're going to see. Like, in the standard Tomb Raider games, Lara Croft's parents, for example, are alive and well. They just don't really factor into the game. They even mentioned in the manual for this game that her parents are alive and well. In Tomb Raider Legend, they wanted to make her a more complicated individual with a more personal story, so her dad died and her mom died in a plane wreck. And her figuring out the mystery why her mom died is a key thing. So those two ideas are wildly different backstories for Laura. So, not sure how they're going to reconcile those two different ideas, but we're going to see. I'm sure they can figure out something. They could even possibly disregard the manual because her parents are never mentioned in the actual game. It's just in the extraneous lore, so they could just say, well, just don't care about the fucking manual. Who knows? But what they're gonna do pretty much is, and what I'm actually kind of down for, is they're kind of doing another remake of Tomb Raider 1, but a reimagining. Basically, they're going to take Tomb Raider 1 and they're going to reimagine it to modern standards, because I mentioned before they reimagined Tomb Raider Anniversary. Tomb Raider Anniversary was 2006. So it's been almost 20 years since that came out. And obviously that was a PS2 game. We've come a long way since then, so it's still a valid thing. But not only are they going to reimagine Tomb Raider for modern times, like 2024, 2025, etc. But they're going to basically take the Laura from the Survivor trilogy and bring her into it. So it will be a reimagining on that level, that it will be bringing it to modern standards, but it also won't be just the normal Laura from Tomb Raider 1. It will be the Tomb Raider Laura from Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and will reference those things. So it will be, in a sense, a different Laura. And some people might say, oh, they don't need to reimagine it twice. But it's been 20 years. We've come a long way since then, so it's still valid, and it's a totally different Laura. So, I'm actually down for it. And this is the same studio that did Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, games that I really enjoyed. So I liked every other Tomb Raider game that they've made, so I'm fully confident they're going to do good with this one. After all, like I said, they may have changed publishers, but it's the same team, behind the wheel. So I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. And in preparation, I'm playing through all these. I'm going to play through this and finish the first 3 games. And then February of 2025, so now it's just 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. I suck at math. Not that far away, I'll play the second remaster that, has games 4 through 6. And it's only $30, so I can save up, and get it. But I don't want to... I'm trying to figure out... I don't want to make myself play all 3 games right before the new ones come out, because then I'll get burned out. I don't even intend to play through all these in a marathon session, because there's 3 games, and they all have DLC. Pretty big DLC, actually. Well, expansions at the time, they weren't DLC, but they were expansions you'd get on PC that add a lot more levels. So the games are big, so I'm not going to force myself to marathon these games. I'm going to take my time and whittle the games down. And when you whittle the game down, it takes time. So I'm starting 3 months prior. That way I can have them all finished well before the second game comes out. Because if I just marathon all 3 of these games and their DLC, back to back to back, right before the next game comes out, I know me, I know myself, I will be burned out by then. And then it won't feel special because I'll be burned out. So I need some distance between this. So I spend the next month or 2 finishing these 3 games, and then give myself like a month or 2 before playing the next one, and I'll have these games finished and ready to go. But by the time the next one comes along, I'll have had enough space that I won't be burned out, because I've taken a break. And on top of which, it will be in my mind, the games, because it'll be like a month before, so I will still have it in my head, but it won't be fresh in my head, so there'll be some distance. Because if I force myself to marathon a game, even if I say I like that game a lot, I'll burn myself out. I need variety, which is why you see me play this game, then I'll play that game, and I have a list that I keep going back to. That way I'm switching games, but I'm making progress. Because if I just kept switching and, abandoning games, I never finish anything. This way, I have a list of a certain amount of games, and I will switch from one game on the list to the other. So while I'm switching up the games, and I'm keeping things more varied in that respect, I'm still progressing through the list as a whole. So I have variety, and I'm making progress. Which is the solution that I have found works best for me to avoid burnout and keep things varied. And also on my channel, I don't want to become known for one type of game. Because, there's so many YouTube creators, I've seen content creators, because it's not just YouTube, who once they became known for a certain type of game, that's all they can stream. I like a wide variety of games. I don't want to be known for one thing. So by playing multiple different types of games, people know I play a lot of different shit. And also because... Oh, shit. Wow. Wow. Okay, I lost progress. Yeah, I forgot about that. So, it gives me variety. And also, because when people generally come to watch one type of game, they are trying to watch one type of game. They don't care about the streamer so much. I want people to watch for me. That is the goal, because when people watch for you, they'll watch anything you play. That is my goal. Hey, we have 7 people watching me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, that would be amazing. Because it costs you nothing and makes my day, and I'm trying to push to 500 subscribers so I can reach partner. Just a little button tap. And I'm also really excited for the new Tomb Raider collection that's coming out in February, because actually, I need to heal. I'm low in health. Boom. It's Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6, which is Tomb Raider The Last Revelation, Tomb Raider Chronicles, and Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. And I'm excited for that for a reason, okay? Tomb Raider 4, by most people, is widely considered to be the best of the classic Tomb Raider games, the first 6 that I was telling you about. And it was actually super ambitious for the time. Typically, Tomb Raider actually, believe it or not, Mary, was one of the very first game series to go annual. They pretty much released a Tomb Raider game every year for like 5 or 6 years. 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. Like, no joke. From 96 to 2000, there was a Tomb Raider game every year. And that kind of made the Tomb Raider games iterative, but if you like iterative games, I'm fine, and people like Tomb Raider, so they kind of came for it. But, Tomb Raider 4, they took 2 years to develop, because they had one team do Tomb Raider 2, and the other team do Tomb Raider 3, so, like, they were able to spend 2 years on it, and they came out with a brand new engine, at the time, of course, that was much more detailed. They, was a massive revolution in the graphics at the time. And Tomb Raider 4 is a lot more ambitious with the levels. In Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, you pretty much go through the levels in a fixed order. And the levels they're decent size, but none of them are truly gargantuan. In Tomb Raider 4, the levels were much bigger due to them overhauling the engine. And you could do the levels out of order. So, like, in Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, they would drop you in a level, and you pretty much go through it in a fixed order. And then you'd leave the level, you would not come back. In Tomb Raider 4, the levels were much bigger. You could do them in multiple orders, so, like, they would give you a series of tasks that you could do, and you could even return to levels and backtrack. And in some of these levels, Laura even gets a car she can drive around. Ah, fuck me. Which is great. And so the Tomb Raider games are always about exploration, as I mentioned earlier. So having bigger levels that were more free to explore was a further distillation of that. Plus, there was more interactivity with the levels. They added the ability for Laura to swing on ropes, which actually added a lot. Her to walk on tight ropes, so she could, balance. And she could combine items in her inventory. Like, you would get items in your inventory, but they were just, oh, this is a key for this level. But in Tomb Raider 4, you could combine stuff together to make cool stuff and experiment with it, which was cool. So, and Tomb Raider 4, okay, so Tomb Raider 1, Mary, is almost entirely set in tombs, as you might expect. Fucking bear. In Tomb Raider 2 and in Tomb Raider 3, they still had a bunch of tombs, but they branched off into more modern settings. Not like the whole game went modern, but like in Tomb Raider 2, for example, you'll start out in a tomb, and then you go to Venice, and they have a chunk of the game that's in Venice, with you going to an opera house and shit like that. And then they'll have a section in a tomb. And believe it or not, that was pretty fucking controversial at the time. Some people thought it should just be in tombs, and some people like the city. I personally think that it should be in both. And the reason for that's really simple. I understand, well, what do you call Tomb Raider? Yes, okay, but Tomb Raider doesn't mean that's literally all she does. She's an explorer generally. And for 2, if you remember what I said earlier, which I know you do, Lara Croft is heavily inspired by Indiana Jones. And if you've watched Indiana Jones, which I really hope that you have at least watched one, because if you haven't watched Indiana Jones, what the fuck are you doing with your life? He explores modern places, modern for the time, of course, obviously. Indiana Jones takes place in the fucking 30s. And tombs. So, even in the very first Tomb Raider, even in the very first Indiana Jones, he starts off in a tomb, You know, the boulder, the whole thing. Then he goes to Cairo. And then, you know, to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom starts out in fucking Shanghai. And has a whole scene in the city. And then Indiana Jones 3, The Lost Crusade, has him going to fucking Venice. And shit. So, even the thing that Tomb Raider heavily takes inspiration from also explored contemporary settings. And as long as you have tombs in it, then I don't like the whole game doesn't have to be in a tomb, in my opinion. The whole thing does not have to be in a tomb. As long as there are tombs in the game, and those are in, they get a decent amount of runtime, I'm fine with it. Like if they came out with a Tomb Raider game that had no tombs, I'd be like, what the fuck? But like, if you do like 50-50 in a tomb and out of a tomb, I'm okay with that. And it gives a lot of variety. You'll have more modern places and old places, which really helps to contrast, oh, I'm stepping into an ancient place. And it makes that feeling of discovery more. But some people really didn't like them having modern settings in a Tomb Raider game at all. So it's really dealer's choice. I'm fine with it. But Tomb Raider 4, to help feed into fan criticism, was focused way more on tombs. And then Tomb Raider Chronicles gets people shit on Tomb Raider Chronicles, but I really like Tomb Raider Chronicles. It's just because at the time, people were just burned out on Tomb Raider. Like I said, at the time, this actually was Mary when they were coming out with a game every year. By that point, they had 5 Tomb Raider games in 5 years. So some people burned out, but there'll always be people that like Tomb Raider that were excited to play Tomb Raider, like me. But Chronicles has a really unique idea where it's 4 short stories. Well, you're not, relatively short. Each one is a different story at a different point in Laura's life. See, like they have the light coming in from the ceiling right there. It's really great. And you gotta find the gears for this. So it's like almost like an anthology. And each one has a different vibe and a different atmosphere. And in particular, I really, really like one of the stories. One of the stories is set in Ireland, or an island off the coast of Ireland, but it's part of Ireland. It's called Black Isle. And it has Laura as a young girl. She's, I think, 13 at the time. This is like one of her earliest adventures. So it's like a flashback to when she was a kid, which they hadn't really done. Oh, well, man, look at the difference in the water. And follows her trying to stop an ancient Irish evil spirit, like an Irish demon, from being revived. It goes full supernatural. And because they have supernatural shit in it, it just depends on the game and the scene. Some stuff isn't. And it's almost like a fucking horror game in that scene, because one, she's a little girl. Well, you know what I mean. So she can't fight back. She doesn't have guns. She has to run, because she's not a battle-hardened vet at this point in time. And two, it's based off of Celtic mythology. The stuff that she's fighting are directly like demons and myths from Celtic mythology. Like the old hanging man and shit like that. So I also really like Irish culture. So the fact that it's like a flashback is young Laura, the fact that it's on an Ireland, which as somebody with heavy Irish descent, ancestry, Kieran Reese is literally my fucking name. So it's like as Irish as you can be in a name. Yeah, you can swan dive. I love doing that. So cool. I love the setting, and it's supernatural. It's like a horror, and I love horror. So it ticks all the boxes. And it's the only time in Laura's history she's ever done something like that. So it's really kind of a special sequence in the series. There's nothing else like it in any other Tomb Raider game. Before or after? Yeah, look at that swan dive. That's sick. And then Angel of Darkness, the last one in the trilogy, was a game that was super ambitious. That was ultimately fucked by studio interference, but is looking like it's going to be fixed now. Because Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness was the first PS2 Tomb Raider game. So, they designed it to take place on PS2, that generation of consoles, you know what I mean. And it was designed to be an evolution, a revolution of the series. Because I told you some people burned out of Tomb Raider. They're like, oh, it's the same thing year after year. So like, okay, we need to have a new start. This has to be a new era for Laura. So they wanted it to be a dramatic change. And to it be a new step in the series, especially because, you know, new console generation, new technology, they can do all kinds of shit they could not do before. And Angel of Darkness was super ambitious. Had a new engine. It had dialogue where Laura could actually talk to people. It had branching narrative paths. It had a system where Laura would get stronger throughout the game, so as you did stuff, her arms would get stronger and her legs would get stronger, so she could run faster, jump farther, and climb longer, and do stuff she couldn't. Like, she would grow in strength throughout the game. It had stealth. It was the first Tomb Raider game to have stealth. So, you know, it had hand-to-hand combat, so she could actually duke it out, and, like, it had a lot of ambitious shit, but unfortunately, they were coming out. I don't know if you've ever seen the Tomb Raider movies with Angelina Jolie, which I actually like those movies. In fact, I would say that the first Tomb Raider movie is actually one of the rare examples of a really good movie game. And Angelina Jolie fucking crushed it as Lara Croft, in my opinion. Fucking dinosaurs, yeah. A fucking velociraptor. So, the second Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie came out. Cradle of Life. Which actually was one of the very first movies to star Gerard Butler. Like, that was before he became famous in 300. So it's like an early show-up of Gerard Butler. I like Gerard Butler. He's a good actor. They decided to rush Angel of Darkness out to coincide with the release of the movie. So, Angel of Darkness did not get that fucking crucial last balancing pass that it needed. To polish, remove bugs, work on the controls, and it didn't even really get play tested, which is a fucking vital part of any game, man. You need to see how people respond to it. You can have an idea of how it's going to respond. Yeah, fucking T-Rex. You can have an idea of how the community is going to respond to your game. You can try and anticipate, but you are never going to fully know how people are going to respond until you play it. There's so many variables you cannot anticipate for. You'll think that you have a scene in a game figured out. You'll think you'll have the controls good, and then people will get their hands on it, and they'll start bringing problems to the game that you never fucking knew existed. And that's why it's so crucial to let people playtest the fucking game. So when you have people not playtesting, as well as not polishing the game, it was rough. So Angel of Darkness is a game that is divisive. On one hand, people really love what it tried to do. They really tried to do something special with Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. She was a fugitive. She's framed for murder, so she loses access to her money. So it's like a dark underworld thing with her dealing with criminals. It's something they had never done story-wise. It has a darker atmosphere, you know, all the stuff I just mentioned, but it just wasn't fucking finished. So it's like, there were parts of it that are so good, and then you'll play a part that's blatantly unfinished, and you're like, man, they really shouldn't have rushed out this fucking game. So there's always been people that hate it because it's unfinished, and then there's been people that love it because of all the unique stuff it did and the good parts of it. Well, Tomb Raider has an incredibly active fan community, as I'm sure you know. You know, it has a very passionate fan community, and they have done something called the Angel of Darkness Restoration Project. And basically, it fixed pretty much all of the problems that people had with the game. It fixed the cut content that was removed, because they were stuff they had to remove from the game because it wasn't finished. So they just had to cut it, unfortunately. It fixed the bugs and redesigned parts of the game that weren't finished. Cut levels, cut content, because they had to rush Angel of Darkness out, so there was lots of cut content that was technically finished, except not polished. And the fans fixed that. It's dramatically better. But obviously it's only on PC, and you have to get it to run, you have to mod it. Most people aren't going to do that. Well, one of the cool things, one of the really cool fucking things about this Tomb Raider remaster project for 4, 5, and 6 is besides just overhauling the game's graphics, because obviously Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness is a PS2 game, so they're overhauling the graphics to look closer to modern standards like this. They are also incorporating that restoration project. So the version of Angel of Darkness that we're going to play in the remaster collection isn't just a better version, like graphically. Obviously it'll be a big improvement graphically, like this is, you can see. It won't just have quality of life tweaks, you know, like modern controls, although it will, because this does. But it will also be the fixed version of the game. Its bugs will be fixed, the parts that were unbalanced because they weren't polished will be fixed, and the cut content, of which there was a ton, will be fixed. So it's not just like getting a remaster of Angel of Darkness, which still hardcore fans will be interested in. It's like getting the fixed director's cut version of Angel of Darkness, the version that always should have been released but wasn't. So for the Tomb Raider community, it's a big fucking deal. For me, it's a big deal. Angel of Darkness, believe it or not, was the first Tomb Raider game that I ever saw my father play, and my first experience with Tomb Raider. And even then, my dad was like, man, parts of this game are broken. Even he said, man, this game would be so good. Like, he could tell it was unfinished. And I played it as a kid. I actually own a PS2 copy of Angel of Darkness. So I have a special fondness for Angel of Darkness because it was my introduction to Tomb Raider. And because it was really ambitious. They really tried to do something special. But it's not fun to play because it's not fucking finished. Now it will be finished. It will have a ton of, you know, they probably won't solve all the problems, but they probably will solve a lot of them, like, a lot. And they're taking the fan remaster project, and they're putting this on top of it. So, like, they already were doing this project has been in the work for years. And now they have the benefit, before it was one guy in his spare time. Now it's a whole team working on it. So they're going to take the restoration project and they're going to improve it further still on top. So they're going to improve a lot of stuff. So it's not just, you know, being able to play it with better graphics and quality of life. It's being able to play the original version as it was intended before it got fucked in the ass by being rushed out the fucking door before it was ready. And plus, with that, on modern consoles, you'll be able to play all 6 of the original Tomb Raider games on modern systems. Obviously not all of them because there's more, but at least you can play the first one on modern systems. The first era. That's fucking dope. And I hope that if this game did well, the remaster did well, it sold really well, it exceeded their expectations, which, good, they put a lot of love into this. It deserved to sell incredibly well. This was, like I said, clearly a labor of love that managed to bring the games up to a much more modern standard while keeping their core. But you know, like I said, this new collection in February will complete the original run, but there's still the Legend run, you know, Legends, Anniversary, Underworld, those are all good games, those are all deserving of a remaster. And then there's the Modern Trilogy, which was, you can technically play it on PS5, because they were on PS4, but it would still be cool to get a native next-gen version for PS5, specifically in Series X, where they could upgrade them, and they could also make quality of life upgrades for those games. After all, Tomb Raider 2013 is now 11 years old, so it's a decade old. They could definitely deal with some sprucing up, you know, in places. So, you know, the dream is to get all the Tomb Raider games available for everybody to play on modern consoles. And hopefully that will happen. And obviously this new collection is one big step towards that. And obviously, you know, I'm pretty sure whatever things they do after that are dependent on the sales. You know, they did Tomb Raider 1 through 3 first, and then after that sold well, they're like, okay, now we'll do 4 through 6, because obviously if 1 doesn't do well, they're not going to do more. So, you know, I'm pretty sure they're looking to do more Tomb Raider remasters, but only if this collection sells well, so I hope it does, but there's already a lot of interest, and people were kind of worried about the Tomb Raider games in the collection, because Aspire, however you want to say it, the people who made this had never done a remaster to the scale, so there was a lot of, like, are they going to make it good? So, with the first one being so good, I think a lot of people's confidence is now that the second one will be good, so I honestly think the second collection will probably sell more than the first, because before people were like, are they going to make this good? And now they know, okay, they did it well, and they have faith that they'll do it well again. But we, you know, obviously, like I said a million times, you cannot make a game a success on purpose. You can make a game, hope it's a success, you can make it good, you can hope that it's going to do well, and it may do fucking terribly, and terrible games could do well. It's not, you know, an exact science. I'm going to make a hit game. So you can, you know, even if something is a sure thing, it's not a sure thing. That's what I've learned. You know what I mean? No such thing as a sure thing. Games that fucking rock have sold poorly, and games that are terrible have sold well. So you can hope it can be likely, you know. Just about the only thing, the closest thing to a sure thing I can tell you is GTA 6. It is going to be a success. Now, the variable for GTA 6 is, will it have the enduring legacy that GTA 5 has had? Because that's what's up for debate, because GTA 5 was successful at launch. Made a huge profit, made $1 billion 3 days. They spent about $200 million to make GTA 5 at the time. At the time, GTA 5 was the most expensive game ever made. Now it's not, but, you know, shit, there's 3 gears. I'm pretty sure I only have 2. Yeah, fuck. Oh, well, I'll put the 2 here. Not a big deal. I've already killed the enemies anyway, so it's not like I have to fight them again. So, it made a success, but nobody, not even Rockstar, Mary, anticipated the whirlwind fucking success that GTA 5 was going to be. GTA 4 was a huge success and sold 25 million copies. They thought, if we can sell as much as GTA 4, we'll be a success. They've sold 205 million. You understand? So not even fucking Rockstar anticipated the fucking landmark that 5 would be. Where even now, in the last 5 months, it sold 5 million copies. So even now, Mary, fucking 11 years after GTA 5 has come out, it's still selling like 1 million copies a month. That's insane. Even with GTA 6 on the fucking horizon, it's still selling 1 million copies a month. You know, so I have no doubt that GTA 6 will be a success at first, and will make back the money. You know what I'm saying? That they spent on it, even if they spent a lot. I guarantee you it will make $1 billion easy first week. I already told you, I would be surprised if it doesn't make $1 billion in 24 hours. But at the very least. So it will make back the money. That's pretty much guaranteed. But it remains to be seen if it will have the enduring legacy and lasting impact that 5 had. As not even other GTA games have had that, you know? Like San Andreas, people love San Andreas. San Andreas is not selling 1 million copies a fucking year. Or 1 million copies a month. So even GTA 6 Rockstar hopes, of course they hope it will be a success in the way that 5 was, but they can't make it so. There is no such thing as a sure thing. You know, and I understand why that upsets some people, why people get scared. You know, because, you know, you're putting all your money into a game, it could fail. That is true. But I would say that that's not really a problem with the gaming industry as much as it is just business. Anytime you put your money in a business, you are taking the risk that it could fucking fail. Okay, here we go. I got up to the bridge. You know what I'm saying? Are you there, Mary? Wee Mary! Sherry Marie! Now I guess went to sleep. Fuck. No, shit. Oh well. Fade away, fade away. That fucking song's stuck in my head now from GTA 3. She books the night light through the distance. Oh, there's a shotgun. Fuck you! Oh, this is okay. This is the same path that the water's been diverted. No, I've already been here. I'm trying to, like... okay. The Tomb of Quelapec. I'm in this part here.